Welcome, everybody, to the Power of Self-Design Ceremony. I'm so happy that you are continuing to join us in this training. Self-Design Ceremony, again, has been such a powerful, powerful tool and technology and ally in my own life that's enriched it in so many different ways that I'm so happy that you are exploring this technology for yourself and how you may integrate it into your own life. And this session too is on the technology of ceremony, which is really exploring how ceremony is a technology, an ancient technology that we don't always consider as a technology, but it is, and we are remembering how to use this in our lives in a way that can really support us in becoming powerful participatory agents and really co-creating the world. This training is brought to you by Seed and Stone, guiding you to soul, spirit, and living in sacred reciprocity with the earth. If you haven't had a chance already, check out the Seed and Stone community and see what we're up to. It's a great place to really connect with others. Really, we're building a strong community there and sharing a lot of tools and resources for you. But not only do you get these tools and resources, but you get this place of accountability and connection and support that you really just don't get anywhere else. So check it out, and please feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you may have regarding what we're up to. I really hope that you can join us. So we're going to start off this training with this beautiful quote by Rumi. There's a channel between voice and presence. There's a channel between voice and presence. A way where information flows. In disciplined silence, the channel opens. With wandering talk, closes. This quote speaks so beautifully to what ceremony, the power of ceremony as a technology, what it can really do for us. Ceremony can really open up this channel, this in-between place, as we talked in the first training around the steps of ceremony and that threshold crossing that when it goes into the action of the ceremony, which really is that channel, that in-between place of it's kind of where you've been before you cross over the threshold, and then where you're going to when you walk out of that threshold. Walk back across that threshold, and as we talked in the first training, into this new place. Ceremony opens up this in-between place where with voice and presence, and there's a flow of information in that in-between place. And as Rumi talks about the discipline silence, it's like the discipline of the silence within us that allows us then with our intention and with the container of ceremony to open up this channel. And it moves us out of, Rumi says there, the wandering talk closes, right? And we talked also about this in the first training where we find ourselves so busy during the day that we're almost in this unconscious survival pattern. And ceremony helps to bring us out of that into this in-between place where this channel is open and we can have this flow of information. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful technology. So remembering the ancient technology of ceremony, as I'm getting to here, and we're talking about this from this Rumi quote, is that ceremony is a communication technology. Just like our cell phones send and receive voice messages and text messages and our voice to another, so does ceremony allow for the same acts of communication. And whether it be you're wanting to deepen your relationship with soul or spirit, or really the beings on the land, a lot of the work we do at Seed and Stone is animating the natural world, recognizing that in coming into relationship with all beings as living soulful entities, ceremony really helps to move into this dialogue. And then we can move into a relationship of allies and sacred reciprocity with the world through this giving and sending of messages through ceremony. As we send out our voice in that action step of the ceremony, we send that out to the world. It's received within the greater field, which we're going to talk about here in a moment. And then we can receive back information from that field so that we too can participate. And right now, the world is asking so much of us. This is where we can shift and change our reality. The world is asking so much of us right now. There's so much uncertainty, and there's so much angst and sorrow and grief. But there's also this potential energy that we can attune ourselves to through ceremony, and we can bring that into our life, whether it be our personal life as at home and with our family, or within our work and our delivery system. We can attune to this energy and really listen to where the world is calling us and how we can move into that place. We can listen deeply and encounter our souls. Where is our soul wanting to? What's the unique and particular song or dance of our soul? And how do we then actualize that in practical ways in our life? Ceremony is a great, great, great technology to support us in doing that. And ceremony helps us to build a container to deepen our experience, right? That's what I'm really saying here, that ceremony, when we create ceremony, we build a container. And that container brings us in deeper with whatever we're bringing into our ceremony. Our voice, our relationship with the world, our works, our projects, listening to where we're being called. We deepen into that conversation with the technology of ceremony. So, as I'm already alluding to, we are quantum beings. Us humans, we work on many different levels of reality. We work in the physical plane, the emotional plane, the psychological plane, the spiritual plane, and we move into these invisible planes of reality. And that information is, again, it's flowing in and flowing out. And this image, which is really beautiful and comes from the Heart Math Institute, is showing this electromagnetic field that surrounds our body, that scientists can now measure from the frequency of our heart. This field, a few feet away, they can measure as it surrounds our body. Okay? And what's really wild and beautiful about this field is that it is attuning itself to other fields of intelligence and receiving information in through our heart and then communicating to our brain and laying down neurological pathways. And so too are we communicating through this, our heart, and into this invisible field. Our field is connecting and communicating to the greater field, the quantum field, which I'm going to get into a little bit next here as we're going through this training. So let's go there. So working with the quantum field. So the quantum field is the way I like to think about it. Some people talk about this as source or the divine. The way I have come to know it is that we are participating in a field of organized potential energy without form. And that form, the way I have come to know form comes into existence from a kind of a focal point and a collection of this organized potential energy. Now, this organized potential energy also has a state of consciousness in itself, right? It is source, it is the creation of all that is around us. So we are participating with that field. So as we focus our consciousness from our soul or our ego, we can then begin to pull from this field, organized field of potential energy, and also bring things into form. And we do this all the time in our life. Everything around us has gone through that process, right? This computer that I'm speaking through came from an imaginary state, right? Which then focused, that imagination was focused on bringing forth this idea into form, right? So we're doing it all the time. So ceremony, the technology of ceremony, helps us to really engage in this quantum field in a real conscious and deeply meaningful way, right? Because we are aligning to the deeper parts of ourselves and building that container of ceremony, and then we are participating with this manifestation that is occurring from this field of potential energy. It's a beautiful, beautiful dance. It's a beautiful dance. And I really actually invite you to listen to some talks on quantum mechanics. Listen to some discussion that's happening, because it really reorients us in the way that we perceive reality, right? Like some of the principles of quantum mechanics that you hear about are like the metaphor of the ball tunnel, the quantum tunneling, where so the metaphor they use is you throw a ball at glass and the ball ends up on the other side of the glass, and it doesn't break the glass or go through the glass. It tunnels through. These particles, that's what's happening. They're moving, and they're moving through things, right? Particles are affecting, they seemingly have no connection, or here and here are communicating, right? They're able to mathematically see how a particle is spinning this way and this way at the same time. So there's some real magical things that are going on now that we can see within quantum mechanics that help to kind of expand our consciousness, and that we can then bring that consciousness into ceremony and really turn up the volume, raise up the frequency as we sink deeply down in our ceremony, and really, really engage in powerful ways within our life, within our projects, within our work and our service, within our families. We can really, really start to manifest things in our lives and ways of being and deeper relationships that really we then become co-creators of the world, which that's what we're here to do. Okay, so let's kind of sink a little further into some elements of ceremony. And these are just a few elements I just want to start to talk about as we, part of this training is to think about how could I really start bringing ceremony into my day-to-day life. So let's start thinking about like a few elements of ceremony that can help, again, to build a strong container. So building this container, of ceremony, we can work with the directions. We can, which is a map. It's a shamanic map. It can be a psychological map. It can be a nature connection map. We can use the directions in many different ways, which again, we're going to get into really deep into in the advanced training and how to use these different maps specifically with what's happening in your life. But essentially, for this training, think about it as like building a strong container in which your ceremony is held. So we talked about last time, like setting the intention as a way for preparing for our ceremony. But there's other things to do to prepare for the ceremony. We can sit in silence on the land and really open ourselves up to what is the ceremony that I'm being called into, and just listen in a contemplative way. And then once you start to bring and get some ideas and start coming into your ceremony, you might want to think about what you're wearing, dress into your ceremony. For me, in fact, right here, I often bring this blanket. This is a powerful, powerful piece for me. I put on this blanket and it sinks me right into my deeper self, the images that have come through over the years, and it wraps around me and I can feel that deeper aspect of myself. So right away, as I step in the ceremony, my consciousness is already shifted. So maybe there's a shirt or a blouse or a necklace that you can put on that like already is bringing you into a different place. It's already kind of turning up the volume. It's already communicating within the quantum field. That's a message that you're bringing into this ceremony. You may use power pieces. For me, another power piece is this owl feather, which has been gifted to me. And I often bring this, just have this nearby, and I'm holding it during ceremony. And I can use this in many different ways, but just having it present is already it's already accessing different parts of myself And then those parts are communicating to the world, just bringing this into presence. So you might use crystals or rocks, flowers. There's many, many, many different things you can bring in that hold a power to you. And you know what they are because they're around you already. There's a certain feeling that arises within you. And maybe that's the feeling that you want to bring into this ceremony. And there's song and poetry. I've been opening us up here in this training ceremony with a poem and words from Rumi and Rilke. And they add a certain depth, maybe your own poetry, maybe your own songs. A lot of people use songs from certain lineages that they have been gifted in acts of sacred reciprocity, and they bring those into their own ceremony. So you may find songs that have a certain feeling again, that bring you alive in a certain way, and you want to bring those into your ceremony to turn up the volume if it resonates. Other ways is herbs, bringing in. You might be collecting sustainably from your yard or your region certain herbs that are powerful and are healing in their presence, right? Again, we're working within this quantum field, and information is flowing and vibrating through those herbs into that field of ourselves, and communicating to the bigger field. So we're in that relationship. And smudging herbs. Sometimes people like to light herbs on fire, like sage or palo santo or other smudging plants and trees and herbs to help clear space and help us to bring us into a state of consciousness. And really what those practices are, it's about building the container. It's about shifting our consciousness. It's about getting into a conversation with the invisible field. And we can do that in our own way, and we can find more training and more support around that as well too. And again, we'll talk about different herbs and different plants in the advanced training and how to really be in the right relationship with those allies and how to bring those allies into our ceremony. And then, integration, how to integrate the ceremony into our lives after the ceremony is complete. And that could be really a training on its own. But I just want to start to think about and have you think about ways in which you might start to keep the conversation going post-ceremony. And again, if you need some support around that, please feel free to reach out, and we'll talk about that in the advanced training as well. All right. So I added in here too some more ceremonial musings. So again, things to just bring your ceremony more alive, right? And we talked about a few of these in the first training of like cutting when you're in that action stage of the ceremony, step of the ceremony. You might cut something that represents a severance that you're ready to let go of. You may have a ceremonial fire, and to that ceremonial fire you offer some sort of obstacle or attachment that you're holding on to that you want to shift your relationship with. You may bring an offering to your ceremony, and that again could be flowers or another power piece that you're offering. Another element of ceremony or a musing of ceremony might be to really invite in some deep healing for yourself, your ancestors, or the world. And then ceremony again, this is a great time to enact and embody a way in which you would like to be in the world. So these are just some more musings, and as you feel into these, they'll resonate. There'll be some congruence with what's happening in your own life, and you'll know what you need to bring into your own ceremony. So we've been talking about some different elements of ceremony and some different musings, and now how do we bring this into your daily life? And I just want to offer you an invitation here as a way to start thinking about ceremony in your daily life and living your life as a ceremony. And this has been a life-changing practice for me. What I'd like to do is just reorient myself to my days and imagine that every day is a ceremony, that it holds some gravity and it holds some weight. And it is not something where I'm just like working, consuming, sleeping, right? There's more to this experience. There's a deeper, much, much deeper conversation going on. And if you're watching this training, you are listening to that conversation. So I know that's true for you. So one of the practices you might do is think about those steps of ceremony, the beginning, middle, and end, okay? And the beginning of the day is the threshold into your ceremony. The action is the day itself, and then the close of the day is you're closing that ceremony and you're stepping out. And what I like to do in the morning is just simply step into my backyard and acknowledge the 7 directions, and acknowledge the deeper part of myself, and acknowledge the world around me and the rising sun. And there could be some kind of version of that for you. Simply acknowledging the rise and fall of the sun every day could be the beginning and the end of your ceremony. But when I do this, when I acknowledge that the day is a ceremony and I'm stepping into something that's meaningful and purposeful, then my relationship starts to shift with everything that I'm doing. It starts to shift with my parenting, starts to shift with my relationship with my partner, my work, and it allows me to be in a deeper conversation with spirit and soul throughout the day. Now, this is a practice, and of course I slip in and out, and I'm not using ceremonial language during the day, and I get frustrated, and it brings me back to something else. So even if I'm not conscious of it in that moment, I'm rooted in something else. And then at the end of the day, when I close my ceremony, and often I'll close it with gratitudes lying in bed before I go to sleep. Sometimes I'll step outside and look at the stars and the moon, or sometimes I'll just walk into the backyard and stand in that center of my prayer circle where I open the day, and I just acknowledge that we've come to the end, and I just reflect upon the day. And it's such a beautiful practice. It's such a way in which to bring me into these elements of ceremony that just fits. It's simple. I can easily fit it into my day. I don't have to make it extravagant in every way, anyway. But it just connects me to something more, something bigger. Connects me to that participatory quantum field that surrounds me in the world and is a creation of everything. So give it a try, and I'd love to hear from you. And as we engage in the Seed and Stone community, there's places to share your experiences and hear about other people's experiences. So I hope you can join in that process as well, because we really love to hear, what's been successful, what are the challenges. Your words offer such a gift to this process. We can't do this without you. So if you give it a try, come and share. We'd love to hear how it goes. Okay, so now where do we go? We've been through this first training, and now we're coming to the completion of the second training, second part of this training. And the third part, which will be really, really great, I'm going to lead you in a deep imagery journey into conducting a ceremony. So we're going to work on this imaginal realm. So that's coming next. But you might just continue to listen, if you can throughout the day, these small contemplative moments where you can just open up and listen. Where am I being called? What's the ceremony that's being called in my life? You may enact that, or you may reach out for some more support around that. And that is absolutely within wholeness as well. Love to support you. And then start to bring ceremony into your daily practices. Try that practice I offered of making each day a ceremony. And maybe there's some other ceremonial ideas you already have that you can start integrating into your life. And then if you want to go deeper into this process, then check out the advanced training, The Power of Ceremony in Action. And we're really, again, going to unpack, your work, your service work, the way you're participating in the world, your relationships, and then how to really use this technology of ceremony to deepen you into life, to deepen you into your work, to deepen you into your service, so that you can become the effective leader that you want to become in the world and make the change that you want to see in the world. So check out that next training. And then again, if you're resonating with this work, we have more free trainings within the Seed and Stone community. Some great weekly practices, wandering practices to get into that relationship with the animating the natural world, and other trainings coming up around watering your seeds of service, connecting to watering the different seeds that will support your service work. So check us out. Again, please feel free to reach out with any questions, offer your comments around your experience with this training and your experience with ceremony. We really want to keep everyone involved and participating in this work, because that's what's really going to bring the world alive right now. That's what's going to continue this paradigm shift that the world is calling for. So thank you so much, and many blessings. We hope to see you soon.